This news update is brought to you by...
Got kids? Then you need video on demand from Flow, with hours of entertaining shows and movies for boys and girls of all ages. There's always something to watch. Simply press the VOD button on your Flow remote. This is how we do TV. This is how we Flow.
This is the Barbados Today afternoon news update for Tuesday, January 19th. Thank you for joining us. I am Mary-Claire Williams. Police are reporting an increase in crime for 2015. Acting Police Commissioner Tyrone Griffith told a crime-fighting symposium this morning at the Regional Police Training Center that the figure was not as high as the previous year. Barbados Today's Emmanuel Joseph has more.
Addressing the symposium for senior police officers on the theme Fighting Crime in 2013 and Beyond, the top cop said while crime was up last year, it was 6% lower than in 2013. He also reported major successes in the fight against the worrying importation of illegal firearms. Commissioner Griffith said that last year the force seized 65 illegal guns, 30 more than in the year before. The objective of the symposium is to give participants an understanding of the general crime situation in Barbados, identify major challenges impacting on investigations, and apply workable solutions to identified problems. From the Regional Police Training Center, Emmanuel Joseph for Barbados Today.
The number of people being remanded to prison could be reduced if government goes ahead with a proposal to use electronic monitoring devices. Attorney General Adriel Brathwaite is examining the relevant legislation that would facilitate the implementation. Chairman of Prison Fellowship Barbados, Win Callender, thinks this is a step in the right direction.
Electronics monitoring serves a purpose in that it saves the taxpayers money because you don't have to house them and feed them while they're up there waiting for the case to come up. They can go about, if they have jobs and the people who hire them and they run afoul of some law, but the people still want to keep them employed, they would still be able to make a contribution to their upkeep and to their families. So it would be a positive step to take because it benefits the community and it gives that person a chance sometimes to think about what they have done also.
The former executive chairman of CLICO, Leroy Parris, is planning to file a constitutional motion in the High Court in an attempt to access his $4.5 million bank account. It has been frozen for nearly a year. Paris's attorney, Hal Gollop QC, told Barbados Today that after waiting for so long for a High Court ruling to his application to lift an interim injunction that froze his client's assets, he is now left with no option but to file a constitutional motion to speed up the process. In January last year, Justice William Chandler ordered the assets frozen in an ex parte hearing filed by CLICO's judicial manager, Deloitte Consulting Limited, against Parris as the first defendant and his private company, Brantley Consulting Services, as the second defendant. The claim also named the estate of the late Prime Minister David Thompson, who is represented by his widow and executrix, Mara Thompson, as the third defendant. Industry and Commerce Minister Donville Innes will head a CARICOM trade mission aimed at increasing exports to St. Lucia, Grenada and Guyana. The mission will also seek more opportunities for local exporters and further enhance the development of trade relations, joint ventures and other investments. 17 local companies are expected to market their products and services as part of the tour, which is organized by the Barbados Investment and Development Corporation. In sports, Barbados Pride captain Jason Holder is hailing his team's performance after a poor start to qualify for the regional Super 50 semi-finals. Halfway through the tournament, Pride were in third place in Group A after losing their first 3 matches. But they rebounded to win the next 3 games to finish second and will now face the Windward Islands Volcanoes, who are at the top of Group B in St. Kitts.
When I joined the squad, halfway in the tournament, we needed to win all 3 games, and just getting a bonus point would have been crucial as well. But it's just good to see we executed, and pleasing that we got into the semi-final. I just think we got a slight edge on the next opponents because we've been playing here. We know what the pitch is like, we know what the atmosphere is like. Whereas they have to come down and make adjustments. Hopefully we can use that to our advantage and win the semi-final.
In news from the region, more hard times for Guyana's sugar industry as the government announces plans to close a loss-making sugar estate on the west bank of Demerara. We get the details in this report from Capital News.
According to a release from the Government Information Agency, Wales is by far the estate in the poorest shape. According to GINA, the Ministry of Agriculture acknowledges the fact that the investment required to refurbish Wales estate remains significant and the finances are simply not available. Diverting funds from the other estates to keep Wales afloat would seriously jeopardize the future of these estates, and this cannot be allowed to happen. The release noted that it's impossible to make sugar production at Wales viable. This is made worse by the gloomy outlook for sugar prices for the foreseeable future. Wales estate is projected to make a loss of 1.6 to 1.9 billion Guyana dollars in 2016. This, coupled with the extent of refurbishment needed, render the estate costly to maintain. A series of reasons were given for the closure of the estate, which includes its drainage and irrigation infrastructure is run down, bridges are in poor shape, the cultivation is also in poor condition, and the factory is old and in need of major investment.
In international news, a new United Nations report points to what it calls staggering violence suffered by civilians in Iraq, with more than 18,000 people killed between January 2014 and October 2015. The UN is accusing the Islamic State of systematic and widespread violence, including holding an estimated 3,500 people, mainly women and children, as slaves. The report also mentions alleged abuses by troops, militiamen and Kurdish forces. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Sayed Rad al-Hussein, says the documents illustrate what Iraqi refugees are attempting to escape when they flee to Europe and other regions. And finally, the government of the Pacific island of Tonga is taking steps to shake off the label as the most obese country in the world. Up to 40% of the population is said to be suffering from diabetes, and life expectancy is falling. One of the main causes is a cheap, fatty meat, mutton flaps, imported from New Zealand. We get the details in this BBC report.
Every morning, Tonga's fishermen bring their catch to the local market, but it's getting harder to sell to customers, especially when there's competition like this on the other side of the harbour. Cuts of imported meat, such as these fatty mutton flaps, have become a Tongan staple in recent years. With globalisation, trade has become easier and food cheaper. Supermarkets are stocked with tinned and frozen meat from abroad, and local produce is relatively costly. It's the foreign food that's being blamed for a health crisis here and across the Pacific Islands. It's a crisis that isn't just costly for health, but for the government's finances too.
This is the queue for the daily diabetes clinic, the biggest queue by far here at the country's main hospital. 90% of Tongans are obese or overweight, and it has a massive health impact. This country has one of the highest levels of type 2 diabetes in the world.
The doctors are working flat out. Despite government initiatives to make people aware of the dangers of obesity and illnesses like diabetes, it's yet to make a big difference here.
Where we are, we still continue to see so many people living with diabetes. Our workload is not easing up. If anything, it's expanding.
That's the news. There's more on our website, www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook. We're on Izumi Media in bus terminals and Screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You could also tune into Channel 101 on Flow TV or Mix 96.9 FM for more news and sports. I am Mary Claire Williams. Good afternoon.